Here are the top 3 mistakes we see most new landlords make and how to avoid them. So, most people that are coming into real estate for the first time don't really understand how the system works or have not done enough research to understand how do I maybe market my property, how do I get the best tenant in, how do I get the right person to work with, is it a property manager or the broker or maybe my surveyor, my landlord. They don't know the intricacies of how the industry works, so they fall prey to these 2 or 3 mistakes that I'm going to talk about in this video. And for context, we are going to talk about property management, so this is not going to be on the selling side of real estate, but more in managing the asset and then continuing to make sure that it is cash flowing for you every single month. So for anyone that is owning rentals, or maybe you are constructing or you are looking to get into real estate, these are the top 3 mistakes you should definitely look out for. The first one is setting rent too high. Remember that empty units equals no return for you. So you have to make sure that you do your market research while you are, let's say, going into that property, if you're going to buy it or if you're constructing. While you are constructing, make sure that you are going around the neighborhood and saying, okay, I am constructing 2 blocks of 12 units. Okay, so block A has 6 units, block B has 6 units, maybe block A has 1 bed, block B has 2 beds. Okay, I have 1 bed and 2 beds. What is the market rent for a 1 bed in the market that I am building in? So if I am in Nigeria, if I am in Nasana, if I am in Entebbe, how much is that 1 bed renting for in Entebbe? Because it's going to be different for all these other areas. And once you set rent too high, people are going to avoid your units because they think maybe this person just wants to rip us off, or they have other options that they can go to, because tenants will always make their last decision based on the price. Even when you have invested in all these things like the marble countertops, you are putting so much of those smart kitchen appliances and everything, which by the way is not advisable. But when you have invested so much and then you price your unit too high, you're going to chase away the potential market that is out there. You're going to make it hard for you to get tenants, because very few people are going to be able to rent above market rent. And most people actually set their price based on the market. You realize that when tenants are looking for properties, they walk around with brokers or they walk around by themselves on a random Sunday, a Saturday, and then they go property to property to property. And what are they doing? They are looking at a 2-bed because that's what they want. And then they are saying this 2-bed is at, let's say, 3 million per month. The next one is 2.8. The next one is 3.3. The next one is 2.1. The next one is 5 million. And they are gauging the price of what the market is giving. Okay. So when they come to your property and you are at 7, they are like, okay, you know what? Why is this unit that is a 2-bed in the same location with, yes, it has maybe a few premium products, but it's at a much higher price or a much higher rental price than all the others in the neighborhood? So they look at that and it sort of discourages them, and then you end up having your unit staying vacant for 1, 2, 6, 12, 18 months, and that is all money that you are losing. So make sure that you're not setting rents too high. Make sure that you are doing your research at the beginning. Don't go into expensive finishes and appliances and all these other things that are going to bump your costs so high that you have to make up for it in rent. And remember that these are renters. They may not care as much if they have a chandelier or if they have a bulb. Okay, so make sure that the unit is functional, yes, and it is the best product that you can give to your clients, but don't do over the top. Remember, don't make it emotional when you are investing. This is something that you are renting out. It's not going to be your personal home. If it's your personal home, you can go over the top with finishes. But if it is an investment, make sure that you are giving them the best at that price, and then that is good enough. The second mistake we see a lot of landlords make is skipping tenant screening. So for anyone that doesn't know what tenant screening is, this is simply looking at the background of your client and trying to find out which kind of person is this Mr. X that is renting my property. How do they operate? Where have they been living? Where are they employed? How many of his family or how many people are coming to occupy my unit? How are they going to use the unit? Are they financially capable and able to rent from me long term and not just in a short term of 3, 6, 7 months, And all that is just going in and digging in and trying to find out what kind of person am I renting to, because remember, this is going to be a long-term relationship between you as the landlord and then the tenant themselves. So you need to make sure that this person is someone that you can trust with your property, because remember, you have invested millions into this property. You shouldn't just be able to give it to anyone that doesn't have or has a bad track history, And then secondly, are they able to afford the rent that you are setting? If you're setting your rent at 2 million, at 3 million, make sure that this person is able to actually cover that rent on a monthly basis. A lot of landlords get excited when a client is able to pay the 3 months that they ask for at the beginning of the lease and then the security deposit. So when the client is able to make the 4 months, a lot of landlords lose track and say, okay, I think this is someone that is financially stable and will be able to cover their rent all through the lease. But they forget that some of these clients have actually gone ahead to save, for that time. And it's not so stable after that. So you need to make sure that, yes, this person is able to pay the security and the 3 months upfront, but then going forward, how capable are they to make sure that that money keeps coming in, that this wasn't just a lump sum that they have been saving up for 2 years, and then it's going to become a problem for you to manage them going forward, because remember, this is a long-term commitment. So you need to make sure that you're checking for that. Other people go ahead to check for things like criminal record. You definitely don't want to have someone that has a very bad criminal record in your property, because once the other tenants find out, they feel unsafe. When or the whole neighborhood, trust me, is going to point to your property and say there is a guy that does bad things, that lives there, and it gives your property a very, very bad name. I have seen almost like rumors, destroy people's properties just like that. But when you are doing this careful background check and you are understanding where your tenants come from, not intrusively, but in a way that you are trying to explain to them that this is why we do the background check, so that we are able to get people in here that are going to be the best tenants for me, but also going to be the best neighbors for you. So this is not something that is coming up just to you, but this is something we are doing all across our community that we are forming here to ensure that we have the best people here, and you're going to have the best experience as a tenant, and for me as a landlord, and also for me if I come in as your property manager. So make sure that you are not skipping tenant screening. That's a big mistake a lot of landlords make, especially the new ones, and those that are not so stringent or are not available or have delegated to people who don't actually know that this is a necessary step, So if you're not choosing professionals. And then the third mistake we see a lot of landlords make, and this one is widespread in the industry, is having no lease. When you don't have a lease, you don't have control when things go bad. A lease is supposed to be that document that is going to protect you as a landlord or protect you as a tenant when you are going for things like legal proceedings, God forbid. So it is only the experienced property managers and landlords who have gone through something whereby they needed a lease, and if they had had it, it would have saved them, that enforce this thing. But trust me, for a new landlord, just make sure that you have your lease in check, so that when this bad thing happens, the document is there. It clearly outlines your obligations as the landlord. It outlines the tenant's obligations and how they are supposed to maintain the property, how payments are supposed to be made. So making sure that maybe they are doing the best to keep their property or the property that they are renting in the best shape, not to just use it the way they want and think that just because they have security, they can trash the place. That is going to be something that is going to be in your lease. And all these other things that you may need to add in. A lot of people have a cap on how many people are actually supposed to sleep in the unit. Some people have regulations on what pets are allowed, what works can be done in the unit. Maybe for hanging up photos, you don't need to call the landlord. But if it is busting a hole through the wall, then there you need to have written consent from the landlord or their agent. So things like that are going to come up in the lease. They're going to be detailed and classified and well organized. So make sure that you have a lease, and then make sure that you update this lease. Make sure that at least once a year, maybe not twice a year, but once a year, have someone that is a professional, maybe a lawyer, maybe a property manager. Look at it and tell you, okay, maybe this obligation is out of date. You can phrase it like this. Maybe due to this law that changed, you need to update this because by law, you can't do ABCD. So those are going to be sections that you're going to keep on updating every year. Maybe in the rent increase, you need to change that. Maybe you need to change your names and the person who is now responsible if you have sold the property, or you're handing it over to your kids and you're retiring. All those are going to change within the lease. So you need to make sure that every single year you're looking at all your leases and then making sure that they're updated, and then also making sure that they're actually up to date. So a lot of landlords keep leases that are already expired and think that that is still a valid contract. Once the lease expires, it is no longer binding. So you have a tenant that is inside that can still get away with anything, maybe because they don't have a signed lease. It is not valid, it has expired. So make sure that you are continuously renewing these leases. If there is a rent increase, it is also clearly stated. If there is change of ownership, it is clearly stated, so that you don't have any ambiguities that might cause you to lose your property rights when you go to court or in any tenant-landlord disputes. So make sure that as a new landlord, you are watching out for these three. Make sure that you are not setting your rent too high, that you are actually studying the market and then gauging and saying, okay, you know what, with the kind of service that I am providing and the kind of amenities, this is the price I can come in at, and the market is going to be welcoming of that price. And then number two, skipping tenant screening. A lot of people don't do this one, but make sure that you are actually looking into who are you renting, are they able to rent from you long term, and how have they been, where have they been, you know, like call their landlord, call tenants that they have been staying with and say, how was this person? Is this a good person to rent to? Is this a good person to live with? And then number three, make sure that you have clear leases. And all this is going to protect you from all the bad stories we hear in the industry and hopefully make you a very successful landlord. So I hope you enjoyed this video. My name is Raymond from Threlty Services Limited. We are a property services company based in Kampala, and we look after properties just like yours. And if you are willing to maybe sit down with us, have a consultation on how we can come in, help you. If you're a new landlord, we can get you onto your feet. We can even come in pre-construction and during construction and advise you on things that are feasible, on how X or Y might turn out. And it's going to just be a better experience for you when you have someone that is more informed than you in the industry that is guiding you. So I hope this video helped, and if you liked it, please hit the subscribe button, please like, please comment, leave us your questions in the comments, we'll be able to get to them. And as always, I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.